Hi, Dare. Welcome to Starcastic Remarks. My name is Ryan Chambers, and alongside my brothers Chris and James, to my side, we are the official Dallas Stars podcast of THPN. Thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook for being our sponsor. Go and use that promo code THPN the next time you go and use their services. Hey guys, how's it going tonight?
Howdy.
It's going good.
Howdy. I'm tired. What about y'all?
Great start to the podcast. Just let everyone know how tired and how badly you don't want to be here. Great. I am so excited for this episode. I've never been more excited for a Wednesday night episode ever in my entire life. There you go. There's the energy you need.
Hey, people appreciate honesty, Chris.
I mean,
Okay,
if you want to
honest.
start on a high note, though, I mean, the
I know
Avs
what you're gonna
lost
say.
to the Penguins tonight.
Yeah,
knew
lost to
you
the
were gonna
Penguins.
say
We play the
that.
Penguins tomorrow. Let's go.
There was one tweet I literally just read as the countdown was going, and it was something about the Avs. And okay, gotta pull a Dallas Stars here. Scored two late goals with the goalie pulled and somehow force overtime. It's how they've done it all season. It's how the Avs have got to do it to contest with the Stars. Contest with the Stars. That makes me feel so good.
Contest.
It does. I don't know why it does, but it does. We'll get into that a little bit tonight as well with our standings talk. It's getting down to the wire. We are down to the last 11, 12-ish games of the season. Lots of things to talk about because there's lots of storylines with this team, as there always is. It can never just be easy going into the playoffs. There always has to be a major thing that we're going to talk about. And obviously, with the name of the episode, you can pretty much guess what we're going to talk about for a good chunk of tonight. So, something we're going to talk about tonight. There is a very interesting NHLPA vote or poll that they took, and it's members of the NHLPA, so players in the NHL. They did a tally vote of 626 players, and they had them answer certain questions like, you have one goalie to win one game. Who are you going to put in net? Who do you want in net? And they did the same thing for a forward, same thing for defensemen. I think it'd be kind of fun to go through the answers from some of these players, because a lot of the time we hear from the media, oh, well, this player is such and such best player. And, this player is so much better than this player. And then the NHLPA does these little tally votes, and it may or may not surprise us depending on what happens in these polls. And I'll give you a hint. There's a Dallas Stars player, you probably will not guess who it is, that actually makes one of those questions as the top response. So it's interesting. We'll get to that. And then we'll also get to, obviously, we got to talk about Oettinger. And James is here tonight, so we can get more of his ideas and what he thinks is going on. Chris and I very briefly discussed it yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about the Seguin injury. It looks like he's going to be coming back soon. Marchment and what he's going to be going. And for crying out loud, can we please get Wedgwood to come back? Because when we don't need to be going through injuries, it seems like the team is going through injuries. Now, with that being said, we absolutely cannot complain about the injuries as a whole compared to some of these other teams in the NHL. So let's just get straight into that tonight, guys. So sounds like that Seguin will be making his appearance in a Stars game for the first time in a couple of weeks, and it will be this week. So we're looking at either couple of days. Well, I mean, this week, couple of days, same thing. 2-3 days, whatever. 1 day or 3 days, one of the two. So it looks like he may be coming back either Thursday or on Saturday. So that's going to be very interesting to see how he comes back and how it works. And on top of all of this, what the lines are going to look like without Marchment in the lineup, but with Seguin in the lineup. So let's talk about how important Seguin's ability to this team is in moving forward. And will this be a giant push for the Stars? Maybe get them some momentum? Or is it just going to be like, we're just kind of more focusing on the playoffs? So what are y'all's thoughts about Seguin returning and his role in this team and how important he is to this team?
It's obviously a really big deal. It gives the Stars a full second line. Even with just Delandra being in that spot instead of Marchment, I think it still gives you a true second line there. So Dellandrea may not be the scoring threat that Marchment is, but he still has the pressure and the speed to make that line really competitive in the offensive zone, and probably gives you enough to make them the true second line again in terms of time on ice and how many shifts they're getting. And that allows Ben and Johnston, who have been outstanding recently, filling that void, to kind of play the third line role where they have been super consistent all season long and where it feels like we want them to play the majority of the time.
Yeah. I mean, really over the past couple of weeks with Seguin and Marchment out, we've been rolling two lines essentially, but only one of them has been scoring, and it's been the Johnston line. I mean, teams are focusing hard on the Robo hence Pavelski line, and the Johnston line is just going crazy. At some point, that's going to slow down, and the fact that we're getting Seguin back before it looks like they're even close to slowing down is a really good sign.
So with Seguin coming back in, obviously he's going to slot in right next to Domi. But I guess the question more is who's going to be that third person until Marchment returns? Because I think the obvious answer would be Dellandrea. I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer right there. But do you give somebody like Radek Faksa, who's been okay? He's been okay lately, and he's got 12 goals on the season. He's got the most goals he's had in several years now. Or do you try Kiviranta and maybe try to spark Kiviranta moving forward?
I don't think you'll see Kivi there. You might see Faksa there. It really depends on how they're playing with Seguin and Domi.
I would be upset if Dellandrea just doesn't start in that position at least, and doesn't play there at least a few games, because he has been outstanding being able to play up and down the lineup, and actually showed in the middle of the season he was giving either the second or third line a spark and making them better when he would switch between those two lines. So I think it 100% is going to be Dellandrea unless he's just playing terribly, which I don't see happening. He's been one of our more consistent players all year long.
The only argument you could say for Faksa, which it's a valid argument, is he's scored more and scored more recently. So
yeah, by the eye test, I feel like this is kind of a Faksa anomaly more than he's playing fantastic. He is getting in position to scoring goals, and he is finishing very well. That's one thing that I will give him. He is great at finishing. I just don't think he finds himself in position to score very often. And I think Dellandrea gives them a better chance he's a better passer. I think he's better on the puck, and I think he's a little bit faster too, and I think he fits that lineup a little bit better.
He's definitely faster, that's for sure.
Random tangent question here, since we're talking about Dellandrea, but what makes him such a Swiss Army knife? Because it seems like every team needs
he just works so hard,
right? And he makes me think a lot like Alexander Kerfoot in Toronto, because Alexander Kerfoot seems to be like all over the place in the lineup for the Maple Leafs. Same thing kind of like with Barclay Goodrow and
he kind of reminds
New York.
He kind of reminds me of Jan Mark in a lot of ways. It's just like he fights really hard for pucks, and he's in lots of scoring chances. He doesn't score that much, but he's always setting people up for him too. So
yeah, I think really what makes him good is that he plays like a really good fourth liner, but he also has speed, and that's what makes him able to play on the second and third line on this team rather than just being stuck on the fourth line. The fourth line, I think, is the difference there is the speed. Dellandrea has a little bit something extra that he can get going with the big boys, and he can make stuff happen.
Well, let's be honest here, guys. Is the Domi line, when it's fully put back, it's right now it's the third line, but when it comes back, are they, even when they have Seguin and Marchment, are they really the third line for the Stars right now? I mean, be honest.
What's the question?
So when Marchment,
the Johnston line, the second line, or is the Domi line the second line with Seguin and Marchment on it? Maybe I should have been more clear. I'm sorry.
For me, I really think that they're still going to be the second line, because they are a lot more. They have a lot more experience in the league. They're going to get more minutes, and honestly, before Marchment got hurt, he was turning it up, man. He had a point in every single game since he got Domi on his line with them. That line was rolling better than Johnston's, or as good as Johnston's line is rolling now.
And let me point this out, by the way, real quick before Chris answers. I'm sorry. This is a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
2 second lines. I mean, we're arguing about who the second line is. That's a good problem to have. and I've been saying this for years. The third line is so important, and I don't know. I'll say my argument in a second. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's definitely. I mean, you could switch that up. So the second line is playing poorly, then absolutely the third line becomes the second line. Just flip it. But I think,
and honestly, with the way DeBoer runs it, it's gonna be about the same anyway.
They're gonna be very close. Absolutely.
That's exactly what Ardell just said in the comment section over there. If you're rolling lines, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's very true.
I think at least the way you deploy them, the Domi, Sagan, Marchment line would be your second, just because of the combination of size and speed. It can play a little bit better against a higher line on an opposing team, especially in the playoffs. They're going to try and put their better defenders out against you. They can handle that a little bit easier. They're going to try and put their bigger defensemen out against you. That's not going to matter with these guys because they can throw some weight around too. Johnson and Dadonov are a little bit on the smaller side and a little bit on the not as fast side. So pure skill, the second line has a little bit more, but I will absolutely say the third line has more intellectual skill as well, more hockey sense.
In terms of how you want other teams to see you, you definitely want the Domi line to be your second line.
Yeah.
You definitely want the third line being matched up against other third liners.
Agreed.
Okay, so get this. I think this is kind of funny, but Tyler Seguin is 6'1", right? Domi is 5'10", and then Marchment is 6'4". So there's a bit of size there and a bit of I don't want to say itty bitty. I don't want to say itty bittiness because he's still taller than all three of us. But hey! Oh, shut it!
Almost as tall as Chris. Okay. Chris is almost as tall as him.
Not quite. You're what, 5'7"?
No,
Chris, no.
What?
I'm 5'7". Chris is like
the blasphemy.
I was looking for that face, and I got the face, so I succeeded in my comment. I know.
You've been had, Chris.
Yes. And then all right, so then Johnston is 6'1". Dadonov is on the smaller side, but
he's light,
I know.
He is a short 6'1".
Like that. Right, I know, right? That's what I thought. And then you've got Jamie Benn. I think he's 6'3", right? 6'2". Oh, excuse me, 1 inch off. Okay, so I would argue that's not necessarily true. They've got, I mean, it's about the same size.
Well, height and size are two different things.
Yeah. Johnston's a lot smaller than his height is.
Okay, he's 19.
He's still 19.
No, I understand, but right now, still. And you don't want him playing that way anyway, with the way he's rolling right now.
Right. So it's a good problem to have. I would only argue, just for argument's sake, I think it's stupid that we can argue about this. It's fun that we can argue about this. Johnston has 20 goals. Jamie Benn has almost 30. How many goals does Tyler Seguin have?
Injured.
Not 20. But again,
injured.
Hasn't been having the same kind of season Jamie Benn's had.
Yeah.
How many goals does Marchment have?
Injured.
Well, and he had that mental block for 40 games.
Hey, 30.
Same difference. That was an empty netter. It was another 5 games before.
Right. Okay, that's true.
But still,
that's fair. And it's fun to argue about this, but let's get into Johnston a little bit too, since we're mentioning him. 5 goals in 5 games, 7 in the last 9. Chris, we talked about it a little bit, but I mean, James, throw the praise on the kid. He's ridiculous, and he is actually now starting to get more recognition across the national media landscape. Jeff Merrick is going on 32 Thoughts, the podcast. That's one of the biggest podcasts for hockey in all of North America, maybe even in the world. And they're going to interview him if they haven't already. I think they actually maybe even interviewed him today. And he's going crazy. He's going berserk right now when we really need him to.
Yeah, and the important thing is that he's doing it late in the season. This is not like a normal rookie thing to do. There's maybe one that does it every year, but it's normally only one. And most of the time you see after 50, 60 games, they start to slow down a lot. And you saw that a lot with Beniers. And I think he has like 2 goals in the last like 20 games. And he's
which is crazy for him.
Yeah. And he's still sitting at 19 goals on the season. So, the really crazy thing is how consistent Johnston has been and how much time he gets to on a team that really is a lot more stacked than Seattle's is.
I think you really have to be honest with yourself when you look at both of these players, and it's not fair because I have not watched Matty Beniers at all except for the games he's played against Dallas. I mean, we're a Stars podcast. We focus on the Stars, so we don't really focus on the Kraken. But I would argue that just based off of looking at Wyatt Johnston and where he was at the beginning of the season and the progression that he's made now, and to where now we're having this conversation about, is his line the second best line on the team? Not because of just Jamie Benn, but also because of him. The progression, he's gotten better. So I would argue that over the course of the season, he has been the more dominant rookie than Matty Beniers has. Now, it's the thing I would argue against and be the devil's advocate for here is that Wyatt Johnston does not play on the top line for Seattle, right? Matty Beniers is on the top line for Seattle, I would assume. He's definitely up there. And Wyatt Johnston was sheltered on this team until he finally got his confidence going, and now he's starting to emerge as that top six forward we all hoped he would become. And it seems like he's really starting to be that player at the exact right time. And I mean, I don't know what he's going to do in the playoffs. We don't know what he's like in the playoffs, but I would argue he's the better, more qualified Calder candidate. Now, I know that's not how people vote. They vote off of, name recognition and hype and stuff like that, and points and stuff like that. That's fair too. But I mean, am I wrong? Am I right?
If Johnston is able to hold out this tear that he's on for the last 10 games of the season, you really could be looking at him just stealing the Calder altogether, honestly.
Yeah, he'd have to go literally insane the way he has been the past 5 games, though. So that's a tall ask, but he at least has earned a nomination, I believe. I mean,
definitely
over Matias Maselli, Arizona guy.
Machelli.
Thank you.
He's actually been really good too. That guy has some hands. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but the amount that Wyatt has done, especially on a much better roster, like James was saying, with much less ice time, he's got to be at least top 3, and especially when he's the goal leader now too.
Well, and he's also such a significant part of this roster. It's like, no offense to Machelli. Machelli's going to be a very good player, and he will be a top 6 forward for Arizona, especially when they really start pushing to go back to the playoffs. But Wyatt Johnston is already doing that now in his first year. He has a lot of help. Let's be fair. But he's significant in that help. Yep. So he's starting to take over his significance. Like, I would say he's even more important than like some other players on this team that we wouldn't have thought he would be more important at this point in the season. Right? I mean, is he more important than our second line center, like than Sagan or even Marchment, or I mean, obviously I wouldn't say he's more important than Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn does so many other things, but I would argue he's up there.
He's really filled a role that the Stars have not really ever had, and that's a very good third line center. He's filled that we have not had before. Yeah. So in that sense, that really makes us a contender rather than just a playoff team. Yeah. So I get what you're saying there. Absolutely.
And him being the center is the really important thing to me, because that's his line. He makes that line as good as it is. It's not Ben that's doing everything on that line. It's a lot of Johnston pushing play and making smart little passes and smart stick handles. And back checking really hard too, honestly.
Well, and I mean, imagine right now looking at these stats here, looking at it and saying that he doesn't deserve to be one of the top 3. Because, I mean, Kent Johnston is around. So is Machelli in Arizona. Mason McTavish, who is ridiculous.
He's in there already.
He's definitely in there. He's done so much for a really bad Anaheim Ducks team. But I mean, this guy, he could possibly score 30 goals. It's not likely, but 25 at this point, most definitely he could get to 25.
If he
And
hits
he's not gonna
30,
be even
he's
in
gonna
the
win the
top.
Calder.
If he is 30,
No.
he wins the Calder.
If he
No,
hits
he
30, he
won't.
wins the Calder, hands down.
No, he won't.
Yes, he will.
How much you want to bet?
No,
You
he
hit
won't.
30 as a
How much you wanna bet?
19-year-old rookie, you are going to win the
How
Calder.
much you want to bet? Let's bet on it.
Go use the
Especially
promo
you're
code
talking.
THPN at DraftKings
Use
Sportsbook.
promo code GTHP.
Especially you're talking. There's only 11 games left of the season.
Yeah, 9 goals in 11 games to beat
finish up the
Matty
season.
Beignets by 10 goals. That would win.
That would win.
I just don't think so, guys. Just because
I don't think it's possible. but
It's
it
not
would.
going to happen. But if it does, that would be if he doesn't win the Calder, it'd be a crime.
Hopefully, we just spoke that into existence. All right.
right.
Next time.
Hey, we can come back. We can come back after game 82 and say, "Hey, see what we did."
You're welcome, Johnny.
You're welcome, Wyatt Johnston. Okay, so all right, what do we want to get into next? You want to do the NHLPA poll stuff?
Sure.
Or do we want to talk about Otter? Well, we should maybe save Otter for last. What do you think?
Your show, man.
Oh,
Choose
come
one.
on. Y'all are no help. Okay.
You're welcome.
All right. Yeah. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Okay. So this was really interesting. I didn't even know that they even did this. This is just something that I found on the internet. It was mostly on Twitter. But the NHLPA took a poll of their players, and again, not everybody, submitted a ballot or whatever, but they and again, on these ballots, not every player filled out every question either. You didn't have to. That was just a thing. So there were 626 players that were surveyed in this NHLPA player poll. So what I thought would be interesting is to go through some of these, and I'd like to know, see if you guys can even guess. I hope you guys aren't looking it up.
I'll guess all of them.
Did you look it up, Chris?
I did not. No.
Okay, good.
I didn't either.
Okay, good. So y'all
What
can
did
guess.
you think I was?
Okay. All right. So according to the NHLPA, you have one goalie and you have to win one game. Who is that goalie that you need to win the one game in the entire National Hockey League? Who would you pick?
Vasilevsky.
I'd pick Flower.
Flower? It's interesting. Flower is number 3, but Vasilevsky is number 1.
I'm so smart.
Who do you
Chris
think
picked
is
the obvious one?
Yeah, he did. Who do you think is number 2?
Who's goaltenders? Goaltenders in the league.
Hellebuck?
That's a good guess, but no. I think that's a very
Ullmark
educated
this
guess, Chris.
year, but
Now remember, players have a
Saros.
long. That's another good one, but no,
Really, not Saros?
Who is
not
it?
Saros. It's Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers at number 2.
Yeah,
No,
maybe not
there's
the
Over
playoffs.
Saros. Over Saros, though.
Over Saros.
I don't know.
Yeah, did
But-
they specify that this was a regular season game or was it a playoff game?
Yes. They
It
didn't
is
say
one
but,
game to win it all.
right, but
Well, I'm not taking Shesterkin.
well, let's just say this: it wasn't even close. Vasilevsky had 52.3% of the vote there. Like it wasn't even close,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. Same scenario, but forward. Same scenario, but a forward.
Connor
Forward,
McDavid.
please. If it's not Connor McDavid, it would
Then
be
it's wrong.
kind of crazy.
It's Sidney Crosby. No, I'm just kidding. It's Connor McDavid.
I thought it was going to be
Ag-
Sidney
ag-
Crosby. Oh my god.
Again, McDavid, 59.3%. That was pretty obvious. Crosby comes in at number 2 with 11%, and McKinnon comes in at number 3 with 8.4%. So, no surprise there.
Sound correct.
Okay, so this next one, it's not really surprising, but it might be a little surprising to me, just based off of history. Same scenario, but oh no, not the same scenario. Excuse me. It's just, who do you think is the best top defenseman in the NHL right now? Not who's going to win the Norris this season, but who is the best top defenseman in the NHL?
I like Fox. I'll go with Fox. I think Fox is pretty good. He's more established than Makar is. Makar's had a couple of good seasons, and he's really good offensively. I feel like Fox is just better defensively than Makar is, and also has the offense to back it up.
Talek Lizzie over in the comment section. Ryan Suter. I love that. Chris, what's your guess?
I'm gonna take McCarr.
You're gonna take McCarr. Chris would be correct. McCarr is the answer.
But
And
it
again,
shouldn't be.
well, here's the surprising statistic for me. It was even a bigger difference here than in the first two categories that we talked about.
Interesting.
So McCarr at 63.9%, and then Hedman at 11.4%, and then Yossi at 6%. So I'm surprised more people didn't say Hedman. I still think that McCarr would win still, but I'm surprised that Hedman is that low because Hedman has been a good defenseman for a very long time now. Okay. Who is the best stick handler in the NHL? This one is a little harder. Best stick handler.
James?
I don't even know, man. That one's hard. I mean,
I'll take Kucherov.
Oh, that's a good guess. James?
I'm McKinnon.
McKinnon?
Yeah.
McKinnon is on the list, but he is number 3, and Kucherov is not on the list.
Dang.
So McKinnon got 3.8. McDavid got 28.7. He's number 2. Number 1 is still Patrick Kane, according to the NHL players. That was a surprising one to me. Right, exactly. So even though Kane has had a quote unquote rough season for him, he still had a good season for most people. Yeah, exactly. But he wins 46.1% of the vote there. So that's still significant. That's still quite a bit. So yeah, there's that. Okay. And then who's the best passer in the NHL? We'll do like 3 more.
McDavid or Crosby?
Chris?
I'll say McKinnon.
McKinnon? Both of y'all are wrong. Chris, you should have guessed Kucherov.
That was my second guess. I swear it was.
He was number 3. Kucherov was number 3. He made the board at 10.5%. Patrick Kane, apparently, I guess that kind of makes sense with the stick handling thing. He's at 13%. Leon Draisaitl is the number 1 here at 25%. So that was interesting.
It's kind of hard to have a bad pass when you pass to the best hockey player in our generation.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the thing is it's normally McDavid who dishes the puck more. I mean, he still has a crazy amount of goals, but like
they could just give him everything though.
Yeah. Like this year I think he either has 60 or he's on pace for 60.
He's 2 away from 60.
There you go.
60 goals. Like that. Yeah.
That's
he's
ridiculous.
2 away from 80 assists.
Oh my
He
gosh.
has 136 points.
Oh my goodness, that's ridiculous. Okay. We'll do 2 more. Okay. I want to make sure I read this correct. Okay. All right. Which player in the NHL affects the game the most around the net?
Around the net.
Around the net. That is the question.
Both sides, offensively or defensively.
That's just what the question says.
So it could be either.
Well, so
Jamie Benn.
Well, hold on. So you don't venture down the wrong path. It's offensively. Most players went with an offensive idea. So that'll narrow it down a little bit.
I'll still go with Jamie Benn or Joe Pavelski. One or the other.
I'll take Pavelski, I guess. I have no idea.
This is where Joe Pavelski is number 1, where a Dallas Stars player shows up. According to players around the NHL, he is the best player at affecting the game around the net.
He's made his late career off of just deflecting and being crazy there. So yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I mean, and let's think about it for a second, right? So with Pavelski, he's got that IQ, that hockey IQ that people talk about all the time. Very similar to Robertson, right? Robertson just seems to be at the right place at the right time all the time, and he has a really great shot, right? Pavelski is a little older, so his shot is not as good as it used to be, I would argue. But how often is he in the right place at the right time and he just has an open net?
Like all the time.
All the time. I mean, he did it. He's done it recently. Excuse me. So he actually won that by a narrow margin. Not a crazy narrow margin, but it was he won 21.4% of the vote, and then Chris Kreider, which that doesn't surprise me either. That guy is a beast. 14.6, and then Matthew Tkachuk, again, doesn't surprise me there at 8.8%. So that's the category where a Dallas Stars player shows up. All right. And then the last one that we'll do. There's lots of other ones, but we don't want to do any more of this. The most complete player in the NHL, according to NHL players.
It should be McDavid because he scores so much that who cares about his defense? But I think they're going to say Sidney Crosby.
Okay.
I like the Sidney Crosby call.
Wow. Both of y'all, good job. Sidney Crosby is number one. Even though he's no longer Sid the kid, he's Sid the old man. He wins at 30.1%, and then let's make it interesting. Who do you think is number two?
You're making it hard. This isn't interesting. It's hard.
Exactly. I'll give you a hint. It's not. It's neither. McDavid is neither number 2 or number 3.
That didn't make it easier. McKinnon.
That doesn't make it easier.
Draisaitl?
Nope. Okay, y'all both gave a guess. Patrice Bergeron, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. He's been so consistent for so long. How many? The Selke Trophy really should be renamed in his honor because he's won it so many times. And then y'all would never guess this third one, but Alexander Barkov down in Florida is number 3 at 7.1%.
Player. Most complete player, Alexander Barkov.
Yes, that's fair. It's very fair.
There's a lot of people out of the first place spot though that you could say that's fair for.
That's true. That is very true. Okay, let's get into our last topic for the night, and then we'll wrap it up with the who cares. All right. Oettinger needs a lot of help, and this is single-handedly the most significant thing talked about across Stars social media right now. There's people that are arguing that Oettinger needs to be better, and he does need to be better. And there's people that are making excuses for him, and not making excuses in like a negative way, but like it's not really an excuse. Like it's a fact, right? He's played way too much, and I would argue, I understand he's young and everything, but when you look at the guys that are playing the same amount of games as he is, those guys are more used to it, and they're more established vets in this league, right? So the two that come to mind, Andrei Vasilevsky and Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah.
Vasilevsky has been good for a very long time. He's won 2 Stanley Cups. He's gone to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. Connor Hellebuyck, he is literally probably the only reason why Winnipeg even has a shot of making the playoffs this year. So,
oh yeah.
It's not fair to put Oettinger in that category yet. We want him to be there. We want him to be with those kind of guys and those kind of names.
I mean,
but
if you want to talk straight stats wise,
let's do it.
Matches
James
up with them perfectly fine. So Hellebuyck has played one more game than him this season. His save percentage is 0.01 better. He has a 918. Otter has a 917, and his goals against is actually 0.08 worse. So he has a 2.59. Otter has a 2.51. Saros, who's played the same amount as him, has the exact same save percentage and has a 2.76 goals against average. Andrei Vasilevsky has a 913 save percentage and a 270 goals against average. The only one who's played as many games as these top goaltenders that we're talking about is Ilya Sorokin, who has a 925 on the season, which is just crazy for the amount of games that he has. That's like ridiculous. He has 93 games, I think. Yeah, 93 games and a 925. That's ridiculous, dude.
But you also have to look at, I think Sorokin has helped out by a lot by how New York plays the Islanders.
That's true, but it still takes a good goaltender to play that many games and sustain
and
a
that's
save
also
percentage
fair.
like that.
That is also fair. So I think Sorokin is starting to kind of get his name into that category of with those goalies.
He's been
Ottinger's
good
getting
for
there.
multiple years too. So
Right.
Let's narrow back to James's point, though, and that's that everyone thinks that Otter's doing bad. Compared to the other guys that he's playing a lot of games,
yeah,
the same amount of games as him, he's doing very good. He is in the same vein as Hellebuck and
Vasilevsky,
greatest goalie of the decade, Vasilevsky.
And Saros, too, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's crazy looking stats wise at it, but I mean all these goaltenders you look at, you see some nights they have like the 5 goal a night spreads that they do. I mean that's just that's how it is when you play as many games as they have.
And then let's caveat this point with absolutely he has to play better recently. He has not played good enough recently. The person who told you that first after last night's game was Jake Oettinger. He said, I have to be better. Of course, everyone in the world knows he has to be better. But to say Oettinger is bad and that he has a bad contract, you're stupid. That is a dumb statement.
I have seen that. I agree 100% with you, Chris. Like he's getting paid what, $4 million?
Yeah.
I mean, he gets paid less than Jordan Binnington, and Binnington has a 886 save percentage on the season or something like that. It's ridiculous.
It's
Who cares about Binnington? He is one of the top 10 goalies in the NHL. That is a undisputable fact. Yeah. You're gonna say that he's not worth his contract and that he's bad.
Here's the other thing about these stats here, though, Chris. He's been letting up goals a lot, right? And he's been giving up a lot of goals. That's just a fact, right? That just goes to show you how good he was for the Stars at the beginning of the year, especially. And that's something that I think could and does get lost in this whole conversation, is how good he's been for super long. I mean, for stretches when the Stars were sucking it up. I mean, even in a little before the All-Star break, he was the only thing that was worth watching on this team. I mean, like the no offense to the first line or to Miro Heiskanen, but they were sucking it up.
He absolutely kept us in the first spot in the division. The reason that we have stayed in the top of the division the entire year is because Jake Oettinger has been able to weather the storm for us. So now the offense is doing that a little bit for him. He's playing terrible. Offense is kind of keeping us in it.
Yeah,
it's about dang time, honestly.
Yeah, I think we're like 6-3-1 in our last 10, and Otter has let up like 4 or more goals in at least 5 of those. So it's been rough.
And it's again, you want to get upset at Otter because you know how good he is, but at the same time, he knows he's not doing very well. I mean, listen to this. I want to read this. This is from like literally he sits down, takes off his gear. Everyone surrounds him because they all know that he's not doing well, and they want a quote from it. Here's what he says: "Let in 10 goals in the last 2 games. Something's got to change. The guys have scored like crazy, which is a absolute 100% fact. So it's on me to keep the puck out of our net, and I haven't done that. I expect to play every night, and I want to play every night. I keep playing like that. I'm not going to. I want to be in the net. I feel great and confident in myself." So, yeah, I want to kind of tear that apart a little bit because I think he's lying in some of this right now. I don't think he's feeling great. I think he's tired. So maybe he feels great, but he's physically tired. Maybe that's what he meant by that.
Though is you're trying to keep yourself in there mentally. You're not gonna say I'm tired. That is the dumbest thing you can say. So regardless of if it's a lie or not, he's not gonna ever say that.
He's lying to himself correctly.
Yep. And after we talked last night, Chris, and I saw the full quote of that, I felt really bad. I was just like, how could I get onto this? I mean, I was fair. I feel like we were both fair last night, but I gotta back off on him a lot more. But
there's no reason to feel bad because he's playing bad. I mean, everything he said is true as well. I mean, all the things that we are saying are all true. Otter is great. He is playing bad. He has to play better. All of that is true at the exact same time. And he will play better. The thing that I am not worried about one bit is what will happen to Otter when the playoffs start. I know exactly what's going to happen. He's going to flip a switch and he's going to be the best goalie in the NHL. That's what's going to happen.
and that's
952 save percentage.
well
And I
that
still
that
laugh
part
at that.
that the part that Chris mentioned there is more indicative of a crazy good top 5 goaltender in the league than anything else. Anything stats wise will tell you. It is when it really matters, they know how to turn it on.
Yep. And that's the intangible. When you get to top 10 in stats, okay, you kind of made it. And then it gets to, okay, when are you clutch? When are you making the save to keep your team in the Stanley Cup? When are you refusing to allow the other team to score when your team is playing bad and you're just trying to stay in the game? When are you keeping the game 0-0 the entire game to try and beat a team that is obviously better than you? That's the stuff you look for, and Otter has already proven that. He's already showed that he plays way better with a chip on his shoulder. So he gets a chip on his shoulder like that when the playoffs start, it's over. You just play a little bit good and you win. Last year, the Stars were the worst playoff team in that first round. Second worst. Another team got blown out. But they were the second worst playoff team in the first round, and they almost beat the Flames. We anywhere close to that goaltending with this hockey
Oettinger
team,
almost beat the Flames.
Yeah.
Otter
It
is
wasn't
the
the
Dallas
Stars.
We get anywhere close to that performance with the hockey team we have right now, we are going to go very deep into the playoffs.
Knocking on wood right now. So, okay. So I want to segue into this next part because it kind of, I think this is the answer to what needs to happen right now for the Stars. And this is a part of the roster that has not played very well as a group. Individuals have played well, but as a group, they have not played well over the course of the season. The defense has to step it up. That is, I think, that right there is the bottom line. The offense is taking care of its job, and the defense has to be better. Now, I'm not just talking about the defensemen. Am I talking a majority about the defensemen? Yes. The forwards need to back check a little more and be more aware of their surroundings and watch those odd man rushes. But I mean, Hakanpää, man, -4, you got to be better than that. And then Miller, Miller has those games where he looks like a good fill-in, and he's fine. He's perfectly fine. He may make a turnover, but he makes up for it in other plays. Right now, the only defenseman, well, that's not true. The only 2 defensemen that we can fully rely upon is Esa Lindell and Miro Heiskanen, and they are very different. And we need a second puck-moving defenseman on this team right now, and we don't have it. The one we do have on the roster right now is healthy scratched. He got healthy scratched for 5 games, and then when he finally got into the lineup, he played 2 minutes and 39 seconds. Nils Lundqvist. So obviously, he's probably not going to be the answer for Pete DeBoer. Pete DeBoer does not trust him. Thomas Harley, I think, might be the answer, but I don't believe they're even going to remotely look at it as an option.
I think part of scratching Lundqvist might be in mind that we are going to go into the playoffs. And if we are going to go deep, he has to be completely ready for that. Like if he's not ready for a tough playoff series, he's going to get demolished and he's going to be out in 2 games.
And he's shown that he's already not fully ready for a full NHL schedule. So
yes.
There's times he just got
really
tired, sat out a few games, came back, and was great again.
Yeah, and
that's when we get really crunch time in the playoffs. We can't go game 7. Oh, Nils is tired.
Yeah,
you can't do that, and that's why I feel like the coaching staff is leaning more on Hanley right now, because Hanley can play that schedule, and he's shown that he can do it, and he can at least be a warm body there and be consistent in what he does, which isn't a lot, but he's consistent in it.
Yeah, and that's really what's worrying me with Lundqvist right now, is that he's shown that he can't play a full season. Yeah, at least 3 different times.
which isn't a slight against him either. That is a normal rookie thing. Yeah. I mean, like we
Wyatt
said earlier
Johnson
in the
is
podcast,
a freak of nature. He does not count.
Exactly.
He is the exception to the rule.
We were saying Johnson is so great because he's the exception to that. Rookies hit a wall at 50, and Lundqvist hit a hard one. So,
and Robo doesn't really count either. Although his season, his rookie season was only 50 games. Right. There you go. Yeah.
That's so easy.
But I mean, when you look at some of the other guys on this team, look at Roope Hintz. Roope Hintz is undeniably the first line center for this team. There's no question. No one would ever doubt it. Okay. When he first came up, how long did he last?
Not long.
28 games, I think it is what it was, 28 or 32, somewhere around there, and he got sent down to the AHL for the rest of the season. Well, what happened after that? He came back to training camp the next season. Voila, he's a much better player almost immediately. And then he eventually found his way to where he is now, and he's now $8 million man, Rope Hintz. Okay. A lesser one, but Ty Dellandrea. We've talked about at extent for this season how good he's been for this team. And he's been that Swiss Army knife that every team needs. And he's been placed on the fourth line, the second line, the third line, and he's been put with so many different players all over the place. Last year, what happened? When the Stars had a lot of injuries going through and they didn't have the players they wanted when they had a rough season last year, he made the opening night roster. He played about 10, 15, maybe 18 games. His defense was not there. Did he feel bad for himself? No. He got sent down to the AHL, came back, and it wasn't even a question. Pete DeBoer had him penciled in early on for the opening night roster. And he mentioned that before the opening night roster even came out. He's like, no, even though Ty Dellandrea is hurt, he is a staple on this team, and he's been for this whole season. So maybe that's something that we can look forward to and say, Nils Lundqvist, go to Cedar Park. And I know that's not what he wants to do, and that's why he came to Dallas, is because he got frustrated with New York, and that's what New York did. But look at Rope, look at Dellandrea. Maybe it's time for Nils Lundqvist to do that and give Thomas Harley a shot.
Also, I mean, we've given him his chances too. We've put him on second pairing minutes. We're not sticking him down on the third pairing. And when we have put him on the third pairing, that's typically when he gets scratched for 5 games.
Well, and it's not really all his fault because he gets put with Ryan Suter. And Ryan Suter needs help.
Well,
and Joel Hanley is very good for that. And that's why that pairing kind of works out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying too, because he was getting put with Heiskanen a lot in the middle of the season and sometimes in the early season too. And he looked good there till he didn't, and then we had to put him on the third pairing, and then he looked atrocious, and then we scratched him.
I don't agree with Lundqvist going to the AHL because I still think he's better than any other AHL defenseman that would be there. The only reason that I somewhat understand why he's not playing right now is because of just not being able to rely on him because of his conditioning and not being used to an NHL schedule where you're playing night in and night out. I think he's still better than Harley. I think in a one-off game, he will be better than Hanley almost every time. But it's just the consistent schedule and being able to have to rely on somebody for a full series is why Hanley's in. So I don't think Lundqvist needs to go to the AHL. I think he absolutely will be on this team next season. I think is his year to shine. I mean, he's going to have had this training. He's going to be able to do more conditioning in the offseason, figure out exactly what he needs to do to get his body prepared for the season. And next season, I think, is when you're going to see Nils Lundqvist getting those consistent minutes. And we'll have 2 chances of having a puck-moving defenseman next season. We'll have a Nils Lundqvist and we'll have a Thomas Harley, and we'll see which one sticks, and hopefully both of them do.
And that was something that the 32 Thoughts podcast guys, I was listening to it on the way home from church tonight. The Stars are in a very unique position in the fact that they're one of the better teams in the Western Conference, yet they didn't have to go out and buy everything like the Boston Bruins, because the Boston Bruins, this might be their last shot. I mean, we don't know if Bergeron is coming back or Krejci or any of those guys. The Stars still have Thomas Harley coming up. They have Logan Staycombe coming up. They have Grushnikov, who is being seen as a pretty high prospect. Bischel. So and these guys, and then we just signed a guy who is second, and I can't believe I didn't even mention that, but second in WHL scoring behind one person named Connor Bedard, Chase Wheatcroft. I don't know who the heck is that. Connor Bedard? No, Chase Wheatcroft.
Someone should draft him.
So, and yeah, by the way, they did sign that guy. He got a 3-year contract. He's an overager in the minor leagues. That's a side thing. We'll talk about that more another time. But they're in an interesting set here, and that's why we didn't go out and get a Timo Meier or I don't know. I don't even remember who the other big names were on the list out there. But there were some other big names that Patrick Kane, why we didn't do it, because That was too big of a price to pay because we have guys coming up who are going to take those roster spots very soon.
And it's also why we got 2 rentals too, because we don't need to Donovan Domi next year. I mean, they might not be good enough to make the roster when you have a Stankoven and Bork biting at their heels.
Mm-hmm. I would really like to keep both, though. Domi has been very good for both of those guys.
I'd like to
and Dodonov has looked really good next to Ben and Johnston. And they've tried Delandria next to Ben and Johnston, and he just hasn't done as good as Dodonov has. Dodonov seems to be that third guy that just kind of fits with the pair of Ben and Johnston really well.
I just don't know that Dodonov's going to be worth it for what he's probably going to want anyway. But
and Stankoven's got to play next to Johnston. Come on, dude.
It's got to happen.
Can you? I just want to see that. Old meets new. Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnston, Logan. That's just giving me chills just thinking about that. Okay, we got to move on. It's getting late. Okay, that just gets me excited. That's a good thing to end on. Dallas Stars talk wise. Okay. Tonight's Who Cares segment was actually, well, I guess it was sort of kind of y'all's idea because as I was joining the green room, I heard y'all talking about this and I was just like, let's just do this. So I guess it was sort of kind of y'all's idea, but it was my idea. So normally it's Chris who comes up with it.
I overheard someone yell fruit in the hallway, so that's where this came from.
So who was it that yelled?
I think it was Mother.
It was okay. So it was Mom. We can blame Mom for this. Thank you, Mom, for the idea. We are doing our top 3 jams, jellies, or preserves, whatever you want to call them. Does not matter.
No. It absolutely does matter. It 100%
makes a big
matters.
difference, actually.
Here is the difference between jams, jellies, and preserves. Jelly
there is a difference. There is a difference, but for our top 3, it doesn't matter. You can pick one of those 3.
I am being very specific.
Okay.
Jelly is made with strained fruit juice. There is no pieces of fruit in jelly. Jam is made with mashed fruit, so bits of mashed up fruit in there.
Stop looking at your computer screen to explain this.
I'm just making sure I'm getting this right because this is very important. Preserves are made with whole fruit or large chunks of fruit, so fruit that is not in the mashed state, as one might say. So very different. I will be differentiated on every single one of my choices, and I'm actually selecting one of each because I think each has their own
unique
properties and work better in different circumstances. So with all of that said, James, your number third, jam, jelly, and or preserve.
And by the way, Chris, I have very specific ones too. I was going to pick one.
Sure.
I do.
Now it matters.
Oh my gosh, y'all are stupid.
Okay. My number 3 is going to be strawberry jam. It's very basic, solid number 3. I like it on biscuits, like it on toast, and that's about it.
I'm very similar. I went strawberry preserves. So similar to what you said, very all around kind of guy here with strawberry preserves. You can put him anywhere and he does great. And I like the preserves better. I like getting a little bit of texture a little bit more texture than the jam provides. So you get to chew a little bit of strawberry on the preserves. Very, very appreciative. Ryan, number 3.
So my number 3 is actually going to be grape jelly, the good old classic, but it has to be jelly. And I know this is stupid.
It's a 5-year-old here.
Okay, it is a 5-year-old thing here. Okay, like everybody who knows me knows I was a super picky eater. I still kind of am. I've gotten a lot better, but PB&J was like one of my food groups growing up when I was like in elementary school. Okay, it was like I ate it like 2 times every single day, like Sunday through Saturday. Didn't matter. But my thing with a lot of food is texture. All right, and I'm not saying that I don't like preserves and shut up, Chris, and jam, but I can't have like I can't have like thick stuff in a sandwich. It bothers me. Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's why he does peanut butter. Keep it nice and thin.
Okay, but
James number 2.
creamy peanut butter, and grape jelly. There you go. Thank you for letting me finish.
Creamy peanut butter is not thick at all. James,
my number 2 is grape jelly.
So
Grape
you
jelly.
let me take all the arrows and wait to wait.
Exactly.
That was smart, James. That was very good. And now Chris is giving you the same look, even though he's not really. We can't tell he's looking at you.
The only thing I eat with PB&J is grape jelly. I don't do strawberry jelly or any other jelly. I use grape jelly.
That is wrong.
I am right.
That is wrong.
I like grape jelly only on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Ryan, number 2nd.
That's how you see it in the pictures. That's how it's supposed to be.
Ryan, number 2nd.
Are Chris and I actually agreeing on something? What the heck?
No, you still pick grape jelly.
I said on something. I didn't say everything. All right, my number 2nd is I'm going with the strawberry, and it doesn't matter either the jam or the preserves, but not on a sandwich. It can go on like a bagel or a piece of toast or something like that. That's when I don't mind stuff like that. Number 2, strawberry jam or preserves.
My number 2nd is going to be blackberry jam. This is one where you really need it to be mashed up. This one will be a little bit less sweet as far as jams, jellies, and preserves can go. As you know, they put sugar in that stuff, so it's still quite sweet. But adds a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of tartness. Very good on toast. Very good on cinnamon raisin toast with blackberry jelly. It's interesting. It's great. I promise.
Okay, now you got me interested. I'll give it a try.
Also,
that's a weird combo.
It's a weird jam for a weird combo.
No, not the blackberry. The blackberry part is not the weird part. The weird part is the cinnamon raisin with the blackberry. That seems weird to me.
Kind of a weird jam. I would put that in the not common category.
Yes,
James, number 1st, jam, jelly, and or preserve.
My number 1st is peach jam. It's my favorite to go on biscuits. That's really the main thing I use it for. It's the perfect combination.
I think me and James have a distinct childhood memory of having, except I am pretty sure it was jelly. I'm gonna put that out there.
I remember it being.
I am 90% sure that we got homemade peach jelly.
I'm 91% sure that it's jam.
I've now upped my percentage to 92.
No, I would know. Okay, y'all start. Chris, you said homemade, and that I don't know. It sparked something in my head, and I remembered.
You remember now?
I think I'm almost positive it was jam. It was not jelly.
I'm gonna argue this to the grave. I think it was jelly. Who wants mashed up peach in your jam? That sounds gross. It was jelly, but it was fantastic. We always put it on biscuits. I don't know why it was only biscuits, but I remember the exact same thing. We only ever put it on biscuits.
Never on peanut butter and jelly.
We never used it on peanut butter and jelly. It just didn't belong there.
It belongs on biscuits. That's what it's for. And it tastes
jelly on some buttery, salty biscuits. Fantastic. Ryan, number 1st.
Do y'all remember who made that?
No idea. Couldn't tell you.
Mom could probably tell us. We'll have to ask her after this. My number 1, and it's all thanks to actually Samuel. He has been on this kick for this jam recently. It's apricot jam. Apricot jam. It's actually really fantastic. It's amazing. And he likes to put it mostly on bagels because he loves bagels. I don't know what it is about him and bagels, but he loves them. But for me, I love putting the apricot jam on biscuits. Bless you, Chris. And I don't know. It's a revelation. You have to eat it. It's amazing.
Okay,
I don't even know what to say to that.
Bye.
What's an apricot?
Apricot? It's a fruit.
I don't think I've ever eaten an apricot in my entire life.
No, I have to leave it. I have to go to the bathroom.
Oh.
Y'all can finish without me.
THPN, DraftKings, tomorrow hockey game. Stars tied now for Central Division lead. Minnesota's going on a tear. Colorado lost tonight against the Penguins.
We could have lost. We could have lost the lead.
The Penguins are playing us tomorrow night, so we better win. Boom. That's the end of the podcast. Flip sides, THPN, DraftKings, all that stuff.
Chris, come on.
Blogs, shops, explosions, happiness, butterflies, rainbows, unicorns, leprechauns. Done. Bye.
You forgot one thing.
What?
What's happening on Saturday?
The live show, live on Saturday. We're doing it live. We're going to be somewhere. We're going to be setting stuff up. We're going to have little flyeries. We'll give you a little flyery to give to all your little friends. You'll come say hi to us. You can come scream in our microphones, scream in our faces. Yeah.
Please don't
Live.
scream in our faces.
I'll take it, man.
We're happy people. We're happy people. Oh, I don't even know what to say. So we're just gonna end it. See you guys later.
Catch you on the flip side. That's all you gotta say.
Tomorrow. Bye.